Hey guys, it's Mal here, back with another video. Hitting you with one that has been requested for a while now, and it's finally here. Before we get into it, I just wanted to say that I do not condone racing at a high level, especially since there is no point now. But if you want to go active, this video is for you. I can't stop you if you want to make that decision. Plus, someone suggested the video, so I'm not just going to give it up, even if I don't grind anymore myself. So without further ado, buckle up as we explore all different kinds of tips you can use for grinding. The first tip is, you guessed it, practice. Practice is always the most obvious and important tip in anything. If you want to get better at something, you practice because practice makes perfect. If you practice enough, you'll reach a pretty good level. Now for grinding, I don't suggest doing 500 races a day or a level where you feel like you're killing yourself for practice. If you want to become a good grinder in the long run, you should probably start off with doing smaller amounts of races each day. So for example, if you feel like 200 races a day is too much for you at the moment, start with doing 100 a day or less if you still feel like it's too much. And once you feel like you're good enough with that many races, move up to however many races you feel like doing after. This is not the way I did it. However, I'm suggesting the more healthy way to become a better grinder. The unhealthy way is doing what I did, which was randomly dropping 500 races a day, and on long races too, when I wasn't used to grinding at all. It still does make you better nevertheless, but it's more painful, and I don't want any of you guys to have to undergo that. Anyway, you'll eventually reach a point where grinding feels really easy because you practice it so much. It definitely seems hard at first, but with great practice, you will eventually become a better grinder. This tip is only for people who want to become a grinder for the long run, but next, I'll cover some tips you can use if you want to grind just for a day or a short period of time. Keep in mind, they won't help you automatically become a great grinder, but they can certainly help you with racing throughout the day. The second tip, and first tip for one-day grinders, is blitzing. If some of you don't know, blitzing means racing as much as you can for a certain amount of time, usually an hour. Blitzing helps because it pushes you to do as many races as possible within an hour or whatever the given time may be. Blitzing is very popular among competitive teams. They host them from time to time and contain prizes for the top racers of the blitzes. Cash is one thing that could certainly motivate racers. So, if you want to have blitzes from time to time with cash prizes, be sure to join top teams. Fortunately, blitzes don't have to always happen with a team. You can also do a blitz for yourself. Just start a timer for however long you plan to blitz and start a session so that you can accurately track how many races you got for the self-blitz. Unless, of course, you're already on a session. In that case, just write down how many races you have somewhere, and then write how many races you have at the end, and simply minus out how many races you had at the end and how many you started with, and that will be your amount you had during the blitz. Blitzing can also be divided into 3 different categories that can help you with blitzing and also grinding in general, so you could use these if you want, not just for blitzing, but grinding as well. The first one is racing at the top of the speed zone. For example, I'm currently typing 120, so I'm going to want to go to a speed zone that's comfortable for me. I could type at either 109 or 119, which are the top of the 100 and 110 speed zones. You're going to want to type at a speed zone that you know you can comfortably type at the top of. This will make your races a couple seconds shorter, which may seem little, but it definitely adds up in the end. And like I said, this could be applied to grinding in general, but just keep in mind, it might be annoying to the people that race you. It's more focused on blitzing because it's a great strategy to get more races in a certain amount of time. The second tip for blitzing is using nitros, and yeah, again, you can use this with real grinding. You can use all of these with real grinding, that's what I'm saying. Definitely try to use them on the longest word possible in the text, if possible. This will, of course, make the races just a little bit shorter. Again, it will add up in the end. This can also definitely be applied to grinding, like I said. Yeah. You'll just have a little bit more races at the end of the day if you use nitros rather than not using them. And finally, the last tip for blitzing is using refresh. The refresh key is different for all kinds of computers, and I could be wrong here, but For Chromebooks, there's a macro above the 4 key that you can simply press and it reloads the page for you. For MacBooks, there's the Command key and R key. And for other computers, there's Control R or F5. For other computer users, pressing Control R may be difficult to type super fast right after the race ends, but you'll eventually get used to it. And yeah, just correct me if I'm wrong with the way refresh works. Anyway, with refresh, you want to reload as soon as the race ends. This will save you a few seconds because you don't have to wait. With enter, you have to wait until the race results screen shows up before you move on to the next race. If you're using refresh, you might see your session get a little bit messed up. This is because it can't properly track how many races you are doing because you're doing it so fast. But no worries. To fix this problem, all you have to do is log out and log back in, and your session will be back to normal and back to where it's supposed to be. This can, again, be applied to grinding because you'll be entering races a lot faster and therefore getting more races. But just remember, if you're going for a certain milestone and don't want to accidentally go over it because your session is being weird from the refresh, log out and back in when you're close to that milestone to figure out how close you really are. I've seen this happen to people before where they accidentally get something before expected, and you definitely don't want it to happen. It honestly ruins the fun out of the achievement. Anyway, those were tips for blitzing. If you combine all 3 of these tips while you blitz, you'll be golden. The third tip is to always have food and drinks nearby while you're racing. Grinding is a lot more unhealthy if you decide to not eat or drink for a while. I myself had a bad habit of not eating or drinking much back in my grinding days, and again, I don't want you guys to have to face that. Eating and drinking can keep you energized during a long session. You can even grab a snack and drink that you can eat and drink in between races, preferably non-greasy foods so that you don't get your keyboard dirty. And caffeine drinks like coffee are of course good for an extremely long session, but if you're going to have that, always remember to not get addicted. Too much caffeine is not good for you. And again, just looking out for you guys. There's not much more to say for this tip since it's pretty self-explanatory. Just always have food and drinks nearby as you race. The fourth tip is to have someone to talk to while racing. This tip isn't for everyone, as some people prefer to race while off Discord. But for the people who like to, this is for you. We all know that racing can get really boring if you're racing nonstop and have no one to talk to. That is why talking on Discord helps. Especially if you're going for a long session and you have to go through the night, you'll most definitely want someone to talk to. Talking with people about certain topics might keep you motivated and it'll keep you awake because you might enjoy talking to that person or group of people. And it doesn't necessarily have to always just be them supporting you throughout your session, you know what I mean? Although it does help, talking about stuff with them like you normally would do is the way to go. If you can't find a specific person that's willing to stay up with you, you can always chat on certain servers as well. Even if you don't enjoy talking in those as much, they'll still help you greatly. And there's always going to be someone that's online during the late and early hours. If you're one of those people who prefer staying off Discord while you race, this tip is next for you. This next tip isn't for you. The fifth tip is to do the things you love to do while you race. Keep in mind, you can still follow this tip even if you like staying on Discord to chat. This tip is for everyone, whether it be listening to music, listening to YouTube, and stuff like that. I say listening to YouTube because you're obviously not going to be able to watch YouTube as you race, although you could switch between tabs between every race, or unless you have another computer you could use to watch something, that would work as well. Anyway, doing the things you love to do while you race will keep you motivated because it's something to entertain yourself as you go. Racing for a long period of time can definitely be super boring at times. I've been there. But if you do something while racing at the same time that you also like to do, it will keep you going. The sixth and final tip is to take good breaks. Sessioning and grinding for a long time can be really tiring, and that is why you should take good breaks all throughout. For example, if you feel your arms and hands getting tired, take a break. Chances are if you continue to race when your arms and hands are in pain without any breaks, it'll only make the pain worse. If you're only grinding and not sessioning, you could take over 30-minute breaks since you're not going for a session. But if you're sessioning, you should set a clock or know your times when you take a break. As you all know, a session resets if you haven't raced in 30 minutes. So, If you want to take a break when you're sessioning, try setting a 20-minute clock or whatever time you feel is most comfortable so that you don't lose your session. And during that break, you can make yourself ready for the next set of races you plan to do. You should do whatever helps. Get something to eat and drink, stretch, and all that good stuff. You'll certainly feel better after taking a nice long break rather than continuing the race without any breaks. That is all my tips for grinding and sessioning. Hope you guys enjoyed it. I surely enjoyed making this video and also my accuracy tips video, which you should check out if you haven't already, because it makes me happy to know that I can help people with their accuracy and racing. Have a good week, and I'll see you all next time.